Alright guys, here we are with the official Sport Future bracket selections. So the website I'm on right now, this is the Sport Future Bracket Challenge website. If you'd like to join the bracket challenge, head down to the description below and you can click the link and it'll take you to the website where you can make an account and you can join. There's also another video on this channel explaining like the rules and how the contest works. But without further ado, let's hop right into these selections. So first series we're going to look at is the Leafs and the Senators. So the algorithm says that the Leafs will win 55.1% of the time. So we'll put the Leafs through. And in terms of the amount of games, well, if you look at this graphic, it looks as though when the Leafs win, it's most likely either in 5 games or in 7 games, with the most likely being 5 games. It's interesting that 4 and 6 are a lot lower than 5 and 7. But I think that's to do with the algorithm taking into account home versus away, which is a common trend through a lot of these picks. So the Leafs play pretty well at home, and as a result, they're more likely to win in Game 5 or Game 7 to close out the series at home. The algorithm's taken into account. In the same vein, you can see the Senators are more likely to win their series in 4 or 6. So is it likely the Senators sweep the Leafs? Probably unlikely. But I guess the point is that it's more likely the Senators will sweep the Leafs than beat them in 5 or in 7. Their best chance of winning is to kind of win the first game and get on a bit of a roll and try to finish the sweep, or win it at home in 6. But anyways, the most likely outcome for the Leafs Senators is going to be the Leafs in 5 games. So we're going to put that in, and there we go. Moving on to the Lightning and the Panthers. As you can see on the graphic here, despite most people saying that the Lightning have the advantage in this series, the algorithm actually thinks the Panthers have the advantage. So we'll put the Panthers through. It's pretty interesting because I would also think that the Lightning should be favored in this series given injuries and just honestly given the way they've played this season. The Lightning are really good, and Vasilevsky's he's back to his, Vezina Vasilevsky. However, the algorithm spit out that 42% of the time, the Panthers sweep them. So this one's pretty interesting, actually, because basically what it's suggesting is that 42% of the time, the Panthers will win in 4. 36% of the time, the Lightning will win in 5. So that is vast majority of outcomes is either the Panthers winning in 4, closing it out at home, or the Lightning winning it in 5, closing it out at home. And then the other situations are just very, very, very low. So I guess the idea here is that the current matchup between the Lightning and the Panthers, the algorithm seems to think that whoever gets on a roll from the beginning of the series, the momentum will just carry them through. So it'll be a short series. And it also says 36% chance the Lightning win in 5 is a good chance Lightning win in 5. But that 42.2 for a Panthers sweep, I mean, that's kind of crazy, but hey, that's what we got, and that's what the algorithm's saying, so we're going to put it through as a Panthers sweep to be the algorithm's pick. Call me out if you want on that one. I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen. The code does. We'll see what actually happens. Okay. Moving on to the Capitals and the Montreal Canadiens. No surprise here. The algorithm thinks that the Capitals will win 57.1% of the time. The Capitals, it's very similar to the Leafs Senator situation, most likely in 5 or 7, with the absolute most likely outcome being 5 games. So we'll put that through. Capitals in 5 on that one. Again, the Habs' best chance of winning is going to be in 4 or in 6, just because it's going to be tough to close out a series with momentum away. So that's what the algorithm's taken into account for these two teams. Capitals move on to the second round in 5 games is what it says. And yes, we can now move on to the Hurricanes and the Devils. So this one is actually the one that the algorithm is most sure of. The Carolina winning at 77.8% of the time. So New Jersey has been, falling off as the season's gone on, that's for sure, and they've had some bad injuries. Carolina has also been kind of cold going into the playoffs. Imagine if Carolina had a win streak going into the playoffs, how crazy this percentage would be. 77.8 is already very high. This one is kind of like the opposite of the Lightning Panthers series. It's saying that it's very unlikely that the series ends in 4 or 5 games. That the most likely thing to have happen is that the Devils will steal a game or two along the way. But yeah, the most likely outcome that the algorithm is predicting, 38.6% chance that the Hurricanes beat the Devils in 6. Also pretty high they beat them in 7. And yeah, the Devils really, according to the algorithm, don't have much of a chance here, but apparently will take a few games from it. So we'll put the Hurricanes through in 6. And now we can move on to the first round in the West Coast. So the Winnipeg Jets and the St. Louis Blues. So this is a fun one. This is going to be a fun matchup. The Blues had a really hot run. It kind of cooled off towards the end of the season. The Jets stayed solid. The Jets were solid all season long. They've got Connor Hellebuck. That's a Hellebuck of a piece. You get my drift there. Anyways, the algorithm says Winnipeg will win 58.7% of the time. So it's not like the most sure, because the Blues should put up a fight. But it's fairly confident that the Jets will come away from this series. And again, very similar to what we've seen before, in 5 or 7 games, with the most likely being 5. So it's kind of looking like a lot of these first round series are ending in 5 games. It seems that that's kind of the way the algorithm does it is it sims the series game by game. So I guess just the momentum of winning a couple games kind of just carries teams to the finish line. But yeah, so this is another instance of the team with the home advantage winning in 5 games, 24.2% of the time, only quarter of the time. There's a lot of possibilities in this. This is the first one so far where like the percentages have been spread out pretty consistently between different options. So really a lot can happen in this series, but it thinks most likely is the Jets in 5. We can now move on to what is probably going to be the best series in the first round. The Dallas Stars against the Colorado Avalanche. So the common opinion on this series right now, especially after the Jason Robertson injury, is that the Avalanche are going to take this one, and the algorithm does agree with that, saying Colorado will win very slight margin, though, only 52.4% of the time. So we can put Colorado through to the second round. And when you look at the amount of games, this is an instance of the underdog team winning. And so it's clear that based on what we've seen before from the algorithm, it'll be most likely that they'll win it in 4 or in 6, closing it out at home. The algorithm really likes to do that. So as you can see, again here, the most likely outcomes for the Avalanche would be 4 or 6, with 6 being the most likely. It's saying, don't count the Stars. Like, the Stars aren't going to get swept is basically what it's saying. So 24.1% in 6 games for the Avalanche. No, only slightly higher than the Stars in 5 games at 23.0. If, like the Stars are, the algorithm was very close to picking Stars in 5 here, but it's not. It's going Avs in 6. So we will put in Avs in 6. And there we go. Moving on to the Golden Knights against the Wild, another one that the algorithm is very sure of. The Golden Knights will beat the Wild, it thinks, very likely in 5 games, similar to what we've seen before. 5 and 7 are the ways to go, but the idea of the Wild getting all the way to Game 7 is much less likely to the algorithm, so it puts through the Golden Knights in 5. Not a lot to talk about in that one. The Golden Knights are going to be fun to watch. This could turn into a good series. I mean, the Golden Knights are always entertaining in the playoffs, so we'll see what happens. And then we have one of the tightest series in the first round. We have the LA Kings and the Edmonton Oilers. So the series that is 4th time in a row happening. LA Kings are the home team this time. They have home advantage. But the algorithm gives Edmonton a very slight edge. And this is one where I might not totally agree. The Kings have had a great season, and I personally think that they're probably going to win this series. However, the algorithm really, really likes Edmonton to go through. Well, not really, really. It's very close, 51.4%. And the most likely outcome for it to happen is in 6 games at 23.8%. Very small margin to be the most likely outcome, but 23.8% that the Oilers take it in 6 games, closing out the series at home. So There's also, it says high likelihood the Oilers win it in 4, 20%. So I guess if the Oilers get streaky early on, they could run with that according to the algorithm. But most likely the Kings don't get counted out. The other thing is that, really interestingly, the most likely outcome, I think I misspoke for saying that Edmonton in 6 was the most likely outcome. The most likely individual outcome from this series is actually the Kings in 5. The thing is, though, is that the Oilers in 4 and the Oilers in 6 are two pretty strong percentages, whereas the Kings really only have the one strong percentage, which was themselves in 5. So the fact that the Oilers have more kind of roots to win the series than the Kings seem to do, the algorithm gives the Oilers the edge, even though what it thinks is the most likely to have happen is Kings in 5. So yeah, Oilers in 6 is what it's going with. Don't count out Kings in 5 is basically the takeaway. But yeah, Oilers in 6 added to the bracket, and we move on to the second round. So first matchup, Leafs against Panthers, a rematch from a couple years ago. The algorithm thinks the Leafs are going to do really, really well in this series. It's picking the Leafs to move on in 5 games again. 66.63% of the time, 2/3 of the time, the Leafs will win this series, according to the algorithm. Panthers, again, in 4 games or in 6 games, they, might be able to get some momentum and steal away the series. But the Leafs, 35.6% chance they win it in 5. That's really high. And also 23.77% to win it in 7. It's also really high. Leafs in Game 7, though, I mean, that's a little iffy situation. But anyways, Leafs in 5, we move on. Capitals and Hurricanes. So the algorithm likes the Hurricanes here at 52.2%. And that might be a bit of a surprise. But look, both teams, they're kind of similar in, their standings. Obviously, the Capitals are higher up in the standings than the Hurricanes are, but it's looking like, from the way they've played each other so far this season, the algorithm thinks, in a very similar to the Tampa, Florida kind of way, that whoever kind of gets off on a head start will win the series. So we've got Carolina winning it in 4 games, a sweep, at 44.47%, and Washington winning it in 5 games at 44.43%. Though, that makes 90% of the total outcomes. So the algorithm really thinks it'll either be Canes in 4 or Caps in 5, and it gives the slight edge to the Hurricanes. So that's what we're going with. We're going with Hurricanes in 4, a sweep of the second in the NHL, Washington Capitals. I'm trusting the code. We're going to see what happens here. So anyways, we move on to the second round in the West. So we've got the Jets hosting the Avalanche. So this one, the algorithm is way more confident in the Jets than it was in the first round against the Blues. So it's putting the Jets through in 5 games again. So Jets through in 5 games over the Avalanche is what it thinks. The percentages, again, are kind of spread out, basically suggesting that there's not a lot of momentum coming into account in this series prediction. It's more so just that the Jets are the most likely team to win according to the algorithm and all the stats that it uses. So yeah, Jets in 5. Sorry, Avalanche. I personally think the Avalanche could win this series if it happens. But yeah, Jets in 5 is what it's going with. So we're sticking to that. Moving on. We have the Golden Knights hosting the Oilers. So a lot of people didn't even really think the Oilers would make it to the second round. And now the algorithm has the Oilers beating the Golden Knights in the second round in most likely 6 games again. So it's worth talking about now that they made it to the Western Conference Final. People are really down on the Oilers. I don't know if you saw that interview with McDavid talking about how he feels about the team right now. To me, that speaks volumes because I think the Oilers can't be out of it. Obviously, their goaltending isn't great. They're probably going to go with Skinner. I think Calvin Pickard's played better for them this season, so who knows what they do there. But the Oilers, don't count them out. They were just in the Stanley Cup Final, Game 7. They lost by 1 goal. They were right there. Their team is pretty similar all in all. They've had injuries this season. It's held them back. Playoffs are a different beast. They know what it takes. Clearly, the algorithm likes what they've got. They get a lot of shots on goal. Algorithm really likes that. So yeah, it's picking the Oilers to go through in 6. What would be a really spectacular series, I think. Again, the Golden Knights could definitely win this one, especially in 5 or 7, like the algorithm usually suggests. But yeah, Oilers in 6, 24.67%, quarter of the time it happens. Not bad odds. Oilers fans are going to like that one. And now we move on to the conference finals. We've got the Leafs, the Canes, the Jets, and the Oilers left. 3 Canadian teams. The code seems to have a Canadian bias. Wonder why that is. Nah, I'm kidding. It's actually just something generated on its own. Interestingly enough, but we have the Leafs against the Hurricanes. And, okay, this one's really interesting. So, again, it's doing the home team most likely to get it in 5-7, away team most likely to get it in 4-6 type thing. However, it's saying that the Leafs winning in 4 or 6 or the Canes winning in 5 or 7 is just not going to happen in this case. So, something about the way... Honestly, I think that there might be a bit of a bug in that because there should be at least a slight chance. You'd think I run this on thousands and thousands of simulations. You'd think at least one would squeak through the cracks. So I think it's just a fact that the way that this team's scores work out through the simulations, which the scores are compared and that's what generates the percentages, it happens such that whoever wins whoever gets like a bit of momentum in this series, just their score absolutely pummels the other to the point where it like 100% of the time it goes with that one. So in a perfect world, I don't think that should be happening in the code. However, it does speak volumes that the Leafs and the Hurricanes have that kind of relationship with each other. A lot of these come down to how they've played each other so far this season with what the algorithm suggests. So it's got the Leafs in 5 at 49.2%. 50% of the time, the Leafs win this one in 5. So, I mean, majority of the time it happens. So that's what we're going to put through to the Stanley Cup final, the Toronto Maple Leafs, in 5 games, according to the code. The Hurricanes also, 25% chance to sweep the Leafs. I mean, Leafs don't usually get swept, but the Leafs have been known to lose. So, I'll buy it. But yeah, Leafs in 5. That's what I'm cheering for. Hopefully it's what you're cheering for. It's what the algorithm thinks is going to happen. And we move on to the Western Conference Final between the Jets and the Oilers, 2 Canadian teams. What a series this would be. And no surprise here that the code thinks the Jets go through. And the Jets go through this time for the first time in the algorithm's predictions. We have Jets in 7. A 7-game series. And given that momentum matters so much to the algorithm, 7-game series are going to be really rare, and that goes to show just how close these two teams would be in a series, that they would just back and forth, and go to Game 7 a lot of the time. 30% of the time it goes to Game 7 in these simulations. But 21.46% of the time, the Jets win in 7. Barely better than their 21.34% winning in 5. Both are better than anything the Oilers do. The Jets win this one 58.08% of the time. Jets in 7... I'll believe it. That's what the algorithm thinks. Boom. And we have a Stanley Cup final between the Leafs and the Jets. My program thinks the Cup's coming to Canada. What can I say? I'm proud of it. It's like my child, My child does something good. I'm proud of it. There you go. Stanley Cup coming back to Canada. Boom. I'm happy. But we have an incredible series between the Leafs and the Jets. Once again, it's saying it will go to 7. But it's going to be the Jets winning the Stanley Cup in this bracket. So the Jets in 7 is 17.96%. I don't know if you've been paying attention throughout this video, but 17.96% is by far the lowest percentage to be like the highest probability of the 8 options. So it means that the algorithm thinks this Stanley Cup final will be the tightest series of the playoffs. It will be the most competitive. It will be absolutely the most entertaining. And yeah, it's got the Jets in 7 at 17.96%. The Leafs in 7 is the next highest option at 14.12%. So it's truly going to just come down to Game 7. And the Leafs are known to lose those, so no surprises. But the percentages are really, really spread across. It goes to show that, anything can happen in this series. The algorithm thinks Jets in 7. That would be crazy. Stanley Cup back to Canada. I mean, Leafs in 7 would be pretty fun. Hint, hint. But Jets in 7, that's what the algorithm thinks is going to happen. That's what you're up against. So, we have a completed bracket here. You can see it. We go down here. We can submit it. Boom. And there we go. The bracket's submitted. As you can see here on the screen, here is the video that explains the bracket challenge. If you want to join this bracket challenge, please do. These submissions are going to stay open until Sunday night. That's tomorrow night at midnight. So, description below. Please click the link. Go make a bracket. Go sign up. It is free to play. Let's have some fun. Try to compete. If you think those picks are ridiculous, some of them are a little silly. Some of them are pretty cool, I think. Some of them are right on the money. But if you think you can pick better than that, prove it. Go into that challenge, make your picks, try to beat it. There will be prizes for anybody who can beat it. And yeah, there we have it. The Sport Future Algorithms picks.